Abundance. I'm Alana Cahoon, and it is my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Daniel Aaron, an inspirational author, coach, and transformational entertainer. He is the visionary behind the Art of Vibrant Living, a globally acclaimed company dedicated to entertainment, education, and empowerment. His life's mission is rooted in service, empowering individuals to elevate their vibration, take decisive actions, and bridge the gap between their aspirations and tangible realities. Let's welcome Daniel Aaron. Hi,
Alana, thank you so much. Great to be here.
it's awesome to have you here. You are from the sunny skies of Hawaii or one of the other islands?
I live in the state of Hawaii. I'm not from here originally, but yeah, I live on the island of Maui now.
Oh, wonderful. Very nice. And what took you there? Where were your beginnings? Were they from Maui?
Oh, about as far as away as you can get in the US. I was born in Maine. I'm a full-blooded maniac, and I've lived most of my life overseas. So it's been a around the world sort of journey. I came here about 6 years ago.
Oh, okay. So you're an East Coaster, okay, and Northeastern. So you're familiar with the cold weather. And what took you overseas?
Well, the first time was I was living at this place called Esalen Institute in California. I was really deep into my personal spiritual growth healing journey. That was a big period of my life, and while I was there, I fell in love with a woman, an Italian woman who lived in Spain, and I was on the edge of going deeper at Esalen or moving to Spain with her. So I said, "Well, Esalen's going to be here, carpe diem, viva amor." So I went to Spain to live with her, and that was for me, that was the first time living outside of the US, and it kind of like just expanded my mind so rapidly. Like, whoa, it's a big world. Just because you're from somewhere doesn't mean you have to stay there.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful story. Wonderful. So how long did you live in Spain?
1 year and a half. My the woman that I moved there with, we literally split up a week later,
Oh no.
and I had the feeling I'm just going to go home. And then I thought, well, come on, it took so much work to get here and all that, so let's stay. And I set the goal: I'm going to live here as until I can tell a joke in Spanish. I didn't know anyone I went there until I can tell a joke in Spanish and people laugh at the parts I intend them to laugh at.
How long did that take you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, a year and a half.
Oh, that's not bad. So you mastered the language well enough to tell a joke and get a laugh from somebody. That's awesome.
Indeed. Thank you.
So, so she was the bridge. She was your bridge overseas to Europe, and then it sounds like maybe you stayed in Europe longer, or did you come back to Estalen?
I never did come back to Esalen to live, and then I've lived in Australia, other parts of Europe. I lived in Bali in Indonesia for 13 years. That was the longest place ever, and that was just before coming here.
Wow. So, wow. All right. So from Maine to California to Spain to Bali to Hawaii. I kind of like this. I like that sounds really beautiful and fun in it and full of adventure. And so you started, did just curious, moving back a bit, because I know you're a spiritual coach, a leadership coach, and you talk about vitality as being very important, which it is absolutely. And I'm wondering what inspired you initially to go from the East Coast to California and really awaken that inner spirit self?
Yeah, thank you. It was less of a geographical move and more of a evolutionary or spiritual move. I had an experience in 1995, which, to put it simply, you could say it was a divine whack upside the head that woke me up to much expanded realities from what I had known before that. And one of the byproducts of that process was, wow, I don't know how to live this way. My previous education growing up on the sad standard American diet, both nutritionally as well as beliefs and mentally and perspective, that had left me unprepared or uneducated for what that divine whack had showed me was possible. So in the wake of that whack, I realized I got to figure this out, and I got really obsessed with personal and spiritual development. So for about 10 years, all I did, my sole aim was to awaken, to heal, to grow, to learn. And having lived at a different center and been into trainings and certification courses and healing modalities, I'd heard about this legendary place called Esalen Institute, and I said, "Well, let's go there. Let's check that out."
Yeah, that's fabulous. I have yet to be there to go there. It's on my list with a number of other places. So that's wonderful. That's commendable. And yeah, sometimes the universe will just give you that whack to wake you up. And if you don't wake up, it will whack you again. So I'm glad you were inspired and started your journey. Um, so tell us what did you do in Bali?
Well, it was so 10 years after that whack, I got another one. And having been very nomadic for 10 years,
Hmm.
the second whack delivered several messages. One of them was, it's time to be in one place, to put down roots. And that led me to Bali. And one of the things I learned, not growing up with gardening in my family, it wasn't obvious to me though, when one puts down roots, that allows flowers to bloom. And because in those 10 years, I had learned a lot, and I'd already been coaching and teaching people, when I got planted in Bali, it became very natural to start serving in different ways. So the first thing I started doing was leading retreats and transformational events, yoga teacher trainings, raw chef trainings, leadership trainings. People came from around the world to have these experiences, anywhere from a day or up to a month. And so that was the sort of first big period. From that, we ended up building a big yoga and wellness center. I got to be the solo parent for my daughter's first 10 years there. So it was a very fruitful period.
Sounds like a dream.
It was an amazing time, and I'm really, really grateful for it.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful metaphor you used about planting roots, right? And that like a tree or like a flower planting the roots, and that's when everything can then blossom. It gives you that nurturing foundation to really grow. But so you were a nomad. Was that in Europe?
All over the world, all over the States. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a that's exciting. That's exciting as well. But so there's pluses and minuses to both, I suppose. Yeah, and then what brought you back here then from Bali?
Well, it was an interesting combination of factors. Our time, I say our, meaning my daughter and I's time in Bali, came to an end. And then came the question, where now? It's a really big world. And right at that same time, my daughter's mother, who had been only peripherally involved for the first 10 years, she said, "Hey, I want to get more involved now." And I didn't actually particularly want to come to Hawaii. I'd been to Hawaii many times before, and it's beautiful and it's an amazing place. It wasn't really drawing me. However, when I put the pieces together and realized, well, clearly the best thing for my daughter is to have an ongoing relationship with her mother at this point. So it just became really obvious that that was the direction for us to go in.
That's awesome. That's excellent. Putting your child first. That's really wonderful and commendable. So thank you for that. I'm glad I asked. Yeah. So it sounds like, Daniel, you've done a lot of creating wellness programs and leading retreats and having your own wellness center. What would you say, in one way, what's your expertise in another way, what have you found that people need the most in the world of spiritual growth, health, wellness, and happiness?
Hmm. Well, let's go in reverse order. What people need the most is to know their infinite creative power, to settle for nothing less than creating what they really want in their lives. And yeah, I think that's the shortest answer anyway.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
And then, so this is what you think people really want to create our own realities. We do have that power to create our own realities, and this is a reminder to step into that power. And we create our realities with our thoughts, and to bring that mindfulness and awareness to your thoughts, and to know what you're creating with the thoughts, which is a lifelong practice, I believe.
Absolutely. And just to add a little bit to what you said, everybody is creating their reality all the time. It's inevitable. To be human is to be creative. And of course, as you know, just the sad part is most people are doing it by default and unconsciously. So when I say know your infinite creative power, it's mean take ownership of it, be intentional about it, make that the primary most important thing in your life, because your life can be a masterpiece. For a lot of people, it's just they're just going through the motions, and to me, that's a shame.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. So you took bold action. I would like to imagine or believe, I'm guessing you like adventure because you've lived an adventurous life. But what about people who like feeling safe and are pretty very rooted, and so rooted that the idea of exploring new areas is um, challenging or maybe even frightening?
Yeah, well, there is a part of me that's adventurous for sure. And as related to your kind comment about boldness, there's something interesting for me. When I was a little boy, I already loved words, and I don't know where I got it, but somehow I came across the semi-famous quotation from Goethe that was spoken by Murray on the Scottish expedition, and most people know the end phrase of it. It's a beautiful full phrase. The end phrase is boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. Whatever you can do or believe you can, begin it begin it now. I actually reversed the order a bit, but that's the gist of it. And from the youngest age, I remember like something about that quotation captivated me. I took the full paragraph and I always had it posted on the wall in my room. That said, I also have had plenty of fear and I like security. There's a part of me that's very much a homebody, right? The perfect metaphor for this in a way is in those early years, shortly after that first divine whack, I realized, you know what? A good solution for me next step is I'm going to buy a little RV, right? Or camper van if people aren't familiar with that term. And that was the perfect combination for me because I could go anywhere in the continental US or North America. I could drive anywhere. So I got the adventure. Yet I always had my home. I always had my bed. All my little, creature comforts were right there for me. So for me, it's really both things. To get back to what you're saying though, for anyone that's like, oh well, moving to another country or taking some bold action, that might be scary. It's like, yeah, true, it is. It was for me too. And that doesn't mean that we can't do it, right? Leaning into it and making it happen. People used to say to me a lot like, "Oh, you're so lucky. You lived in Bali, you lived on Martha's Vineyard, live in Hawaii." And I think, well, I am lucky and I'm super grateful. And th those circumstances were just a decision. I said, okay, I'm gonna go there. Right. And then yeah, fear came up and obstacles came up and questions came up. And that's just part of the process of figuring it out.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. boldness, beginning something. So it's like leaping, taking that first leap, or as you say, leaning into the curiosity and the wonder.
Hmm.
What if, knowing that obstacles are going to rise? Obstacles are going to rise every day, everywhere, no matter where you are. And if you have a dream to explore, I just talked to a friend who just came back from a few weeks in India, and it was the first time he went, and he's already got his second and third return visit planned. So you never know. You never know. Um, I lived overseas a few times, and the first time was during college. And I remember coming back, it was my junior year, and I thought, nothing else I have learned in this university has taught me anything compared to living in another country. Suddenly, I realize how fortunate I am, the incredible wealth of abundance of food, of space, of land, of opportunities that this country provides. Um, and also, of course, appreciating Europe. I was in the UK, and the gorgeous ancient buildings and the beautiful architecture and the gorgeous voices, the different dialects, and traveling through Europe and hearing all the different languages and cultural and food. And it's so much fun, so much fun. And I think everybody in the planet ought to go to another country and live there for at least a month and just like really experience what it's like to be someplace foreign. There's something about that that's really eye-opening and invigorating and helps you get on your path. So here's another question for you, Daniel. Life purpose, right? This is the new buzzword, and I'm all for it. I love it. I think having a life purpose uh, makes life exciting. Right? Can't wait to get out of bed. Can't wait to get going. And it comes up in knowing other cultures. You suddenly are able to um, have more validity and value to the life you already have, and helps you to then shape that direction. What do you have to say about life purpose and its value, and understanding and knowing what yours is?
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. My business is called The Art of Vibrant Living, and one of my programs is called Make Your Life a Masterpiece. And life purpose to me is 100% essential for either way of phrasing it like that, right? To have a great life, one must have a purpose. And here's the thing, everybody does. So it's not have a purpose, it's know our purpose. In Indian Hinduism, right, it's called Dharma. And just, I don't know, 7 years ago or something, I learned the phrase ikigai from Japan, which to me is even better than dharma, because the concept in Japanese, ikigai says, okay, what you like to do, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid well for. It's at the intersection of those four components. And as I say all of that, I'm hearing also some people like, oh no, I don't know what my life purpose is. Well, then your life purpose is to discover your life purpose, right? To find out what that is, to live into it. And it's not like nobody, in my opinion, nobody knows like, okay, this is my life purpose. Well, we might know our mission, we might know the direction. However, we're always growing, expanding. So what it looks like or the manifestations of it are always going to evolve also.
Isn't that beautiful?
Hmm.
I love it. Yeah, the Dharma, the Ikigai. That's really interesting. And the four things to what do you love to do? Uh, can you get paid for it? Does it pay? Does the world need it? And there was another fourth one in there somewhere. I think I missed.
What you love to do, what the world needs, where to go? What did we miss? What you can be paid well for, and what you're good at.
What you're good at. Yes, 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 and what you're good at. I love that. That's just really wonderful, and I'd never heard of that. So
Mm,
that's really interesting. Yeah, so the knowing what your purpose is, that's part of life discovery. It's part of understanding and exploring, and part of travel helps you to understand who you are, what you're good at, and what you like and what you don't like. Trying different jobs. Yeah, paying attention to yourself. What do you do on your time off? What would you like to do if you weren't exhausted and you had vitality? Um, which also, I think when we have vitality, often we gain vitality by doing what we love.
mm.
So when we're living, it's like both ways. If we're living our life purpose, we will have more energy, more vitality. If we're, beating ourselves, if we're, walking down a path that just isn't really right for us, it will be frustrating. And frustration is a negative emotion that causes exhaustion. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
so some years ago, somebody asked me to be on their summit, and their summit was about self-care. And of course, I was honored to receive the request. And then I spoke to the person who was organizing. I said, "Are you sure you want me to be on that? Because I'm not really like somebody who gets a lot of massages and pedicures and goes to the spa every week. I like all those things and I do them sometimes." Um, and they said, and I have a reputation for being, hardworking, doing a lot, putting a lot of effort in. And I said, "I'm not sure that's really compatible with self-care." And they said, "Yeah, I do want you to." And so I thought about it more. I was like, "Oh, well, you know what? The most important part of self-care for me is having purpose, right? Having a something that lights me up, that I'm passionate about, so that it's not that it's not work and we can get into the semantics. There's effort required, and sometimes it's tiring for sure. And it's also fulfilling when it's for a greater purpose."
I love it. Yes, exactly. It's so fulfilling when you're working for a purpose, when you're of service. And I know that's something you say. That's a motto of yours as well. I am of service. How can I be of service? And I think that's a great takeaway for everyone who's listening. How can you be of service today? Whether that's bringing a smile to somebody, lending a helping hand, sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, anything like that. Um, yeah, being of service, very important. So tell us what are you doing now? You've done all this incredible stuff all over the world. What's your thing now that you have planted new roots with your daughter in Hawaii? What's in the pot that you're growing?
Yeah, thank you. Well, my mission is to entertain, inspire, and empower as many people as possible in this lifetime. And the way to do that is to love and serve the people that are in front of me. And I'm always looking for more opportunities to love, serve, and empower people. At the moment, the way that works is through my coaching programs, through my live video show podcast, through writings, through my book. And I'm always open to and looking for ways to grow and expand that.
Awesome. And so tell us a bit more about your um, video podcast. What's that called? Is that the Art of Living?
It's called the Art of Vibrant Living Show. And I believe you're going to be on a guest on it one day soon. And it's just a beautiful opportunity for me to interview, host, and feature luminaries, and for us to talk about how does it work to create a vibrant, thriving life.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. And let's see, we have just a few more minutes here. Is there anything else you would like to share?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Always happy to share. One concept I'll invite your audience into an awareness of, which may be something that's obvious for them or not. It wasn't for me, from my upbringing. It's a concept or a distinction about being, right? And being we could contrast with doing. And contrast is probably not the right word. We can distinguish them, right? And here's the amazing thing about being. And if being sounds like a strange way of speaking, we could say being is, who are you being, right? What are the thoughts that we have about ourselves all the time? What's our identity or our vibration? That's who we are being. Or like Emerson said, who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you say, right? So this idea of being is primary, and from being comes what we say, what we do, how we perceive the world, how other people perceive us. And here's the really key thing about it is, one, everybody is being only, always, all the time. It's inescapable. It's part of being human. So everybody is being. The second part, though, is really interesting. We can observe who we are being, how we are being, right? At any point, I can stop and say, who am I being right now? Okay, I'm being angry, or I'm being service, I'm being love, right? I can stop and look at it. And then the third part is really key, is we can shift who we are being. We have that power and that control. So, when I work with people, there are a lot of components to it, though. One of the core elements is always, who are you being? And what we do is say, okay, let's do something different than most people. Let's get conscious, clear, and intentional about who you are and who you are becoming, right? And for me, that means creating a manifesto, writing out, this is who I am. And everybody has one, by the way. Everybody has a manifesto, a document, a statement. It's just that for most people, they haven't taken the time to write it out. For most people, we can detective work on it and find out, because people say things like, I am tired, I am smart, I am rich, I am poor, I am like, bad things happen to me, right? These are all statements of who they are. And the thing is, who we are being is always going to manifest in the world. That's becomes our reality. It's inescapable. So if any of us consciously create who we are and out picture that in the form of a written manifesto, that is massively, massively helpful, important in my 30 years of personal spiritual development work. That's by far the most important thing, along with the sister of that, which is activating and cultivating it on a daily basis, right? It's not enough to write a mission statement and then put it on the wall or put it in a drawer. It's like, how do I live that? How do I create myself into that? So part of my morning or ritual protocol is, I call it creating myself, right? And everybody has that power every day to consciously create themselves into who they choose to be. And that changes everything in life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I totally get the concept of being. And I love that you're sharing with everyone the tool to empower yourself is to write it out. And there's something about that, pen and ink or your computer, seeing it in black and white that starts the real, law of attraction, the reality. It's creating your reality right there by putting it down on paper. So thank you for that. So everyone who's listening, write down your manifesto. And if you have any issues, go visit Daniel Aaron. I'm going to drop all of his information in the show notes so you can just visit us at Creating Abundance, the podcast with Alana Cahoon, and take a look at his website and his many offerings. Such an honor to have you as a guest here today, Daniel, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. And what is it that you say in Hawaii now?
What do we say? Aloha?
Aloha.
Aloha, absolutely.
Aloha.
And Alana, thank you so much for not only having me here, but for doing this, for creating something that's of value to people, to your community, for showing up and giving to the world. I really appreciate it. It's beautiful.
Awesome. Until next time, everyone, namaste.
Namaste.